Good morning, everyone. I'm Navin Pangliman, the reporter of Group 5. I'm first reporter, and the topic is the syllogism. What is a syllogism? From the Greek word syllogismos, which means an influence or conclusion. According to Aristotle, syllogism is a proportional expression. There are three categorical syllogism. First, major term. Second, middle term. Third, minor term. A major terms, a major terms which a major premise designated by capital letter MP. It is the predicate of the conclusion. And the middle term which is found in the major premise and minor premise but never ever in the conclusion. A middle term is the subject of the major premise and the predicate of the minor premise. And a minor term which a minor premise designated by small letter MP is a it is a subject of the conclusion. For example, MP Jericho is with Precious. Small MP, but Yusuf is with Jericho. Therefore, Yusuf is with Precious. So, example is Jericho is the major term. Sa first sentence is gi-conclude na si Jericho is with Precious. But sa second sentence is meron reasoning or deductive argument na naganap which concludes that Yusuf is with Jericho. And so last sentence is the final conclusion which is the therefore Yusuf is with Precious. And that's all my report. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Hanifa Pango, and I am the second reporter from Group 5. So, my assigned topic is all about fallacies according to the extension of terms. So, before that, I will discuss the premise and fallacies. So, premise. Premise can be either true or false, and the validity of an argument depends on the truthfulness of its premises. When constructing an argument, it is crucial to ensure that the premises are relevant, accurate, and logically connected to the conclusion. So the premise is a proposition, a true or a false declarative statement used in an argument to prove the truth or of another proposition called the conclusion. So the premise is it is the supporting details of the argument. So next is the fallacies. Fallacies are errors in reasoning that can make an argument seem convincing even though it's not logically sound. So, a, logical fallacy is an argument that may sound convincing or true, but it is actually a flawed, leading to an unsupported conclusion. So, for example, if someone who assumes that because someone else's argument contain a logical fallacy, such as an appeal to nature, then the conclusion of their argument must necessarily be false. So let's proceed to the first fundamental rules. So it is a must to have only three terms such as the subject, predicate, and the middle term only. So for example, Peter is with Mary, but Joseph is with Peter. Therefore, Joseph is with Mary. So, Peter is the middle term, and Mary is the predicate, and the Joseph is the subject. So, dito sa example is three terms lang yung nagamit. Which is, tama ito siya kasi nakasunod siya dun sa rules. Dito tayo sa second example. For example, Peter is with Mary, but Joseph is with Peter and James. Therefore, Joseph is with Mary. So, dito sa second example is, mali na to siya kasi four terms na yung nagamit, which is nadagdag si James. Clear naman dun sa rules na kailangan is three terms only dito sa first fundamental rule. So, proceed tayo sa second fundamental rule. The middle term must only be in the major premise as the subject and in the minor premise as the predicate but not in the conclusion. For example, all Filipinos are Asian but Joselito is a Filipino. Therefore, Joselito is an Asian. So, sa binigay na example, ang middle term is ang all Filipino. So, this example is connect kasi hindi na nakita yung middle term sa conclusion. Sa rule kasi, the middle term only be in the major premise and minor premise. Sa major premise is yung middle term is a subject and sa minor premise naman is predicate na yung middle term. So, proceed tayo dito sa second example. All Filipinos are Asians, but Joselito is an Asian. Therefore, Joselito is a Filipino. So, dito sa second example is, mali ito siya kasi, di ba yung middle term is all Filipinos. So, dun sa conclusion which is therefore, is nakita yung middle term which is the Filipino. So, mali na to siya kasi dun sa rule is, kailangan yung middle term is hindi siya makita sa conclusion. Ang tamang tamang example dito is yung sa taas kasi yung word na yung middle term na Filipinos is hindi na siya nakita dun sa conclusion. So, let's proceed to fallacies according to quantity. The third fundamental rules, the quantities of major term and minor term must to be extended in the conclusion if they are particular in premises. So, according to the fallacies of quantity, There are rules that must be followed in a syllogism to ensure that the argument is valid. One of these rules is that the quantities of the major term and the minor term must not be extended in the conclusion if they are particular in the premises. So, the fallacy of illicit process of the major term occurs when the predicate term in universal in the conclusion. This means that the conclusion is making a claim about all members of a category when the premise only provided information about some members of that category. So, for example, all scientists are discoverers, but no scientists are stupid. Therefore, no stupid is discoverer. So, in the example provided, there is a fallacy of illicit process of the major term. The premise states that all scientists are discoverer, but it doesn't provide information about all stupid people. Therefore, the conclusion that no stupid person is a discoverer cannot be supported by the premises. So, in this given example, the fallacy of illicit process of the minor term occurs. This fallacy occurs when the subject term or the minor term is particular in the premise and then appears to become universal in the conclusion, which is logically incorrect. So let's proceed to the second example. No bodybuilders are weak persons, but all bodybuilders are muscular individuals. Therefore, no muscular individuals are weak persons. So, in the premises provided, it is stated that no bodybuilders are weak persons and all bodybuilders are muscular individuals. So, here the subject term bodybuilders, it is particular in the first premise. No bodybuilders are weak, which is no bodybuilders are weak persons. And universal in the second premise, which is all bodybuilders are muscular individuals. So, the conclusion drawn from these premises is therefore no muscular individuals are weak persons, where the subject term muscular individuals has apparently become universal. This is a fallacious inference because the original premises do not provide enough information to make the subject term universal in the conclusion. So, to correct this fallacy, the conclusion should be uh, based on the information provided in the premises without making the subject term universal when it was particular in one of the premises. This will ensure that the reasoning follows the rules of logic and avoids the fallacy of illicit process of the minor term. Let's proceed to the fourth fundamental rule. At least once that the quantity of the middle term must be universal. In this syllogism, the middle term is the one who unites between the major premise and the minor premise. If it is a distributed universal in any of the premises, therefore it serves its purpose as it requires to distributing its influence on the first premise and to the second premise. This fallacious happens only if the middle term has particular quantity in both premises. So, dapat dito sa rule ng fourth fundamental is the middle term needs to be universal, na kahit isa lang sa mga premises, which means dun sa first and second statement kailangan kahit isa lang sa kanila is universal yung middle term. This is important because the middle terms needs to fully connect the major and minor premises. So, for example, every public officer is a law enforcer, but some law enforcers are women. Therefore, some women are public officers. So, in this case, it shows how undistributed middle term fails to connect the major and minor term. The middle term is the law enforcer, and ang statement is every public officer is a law enforcer, which is universal. However, kung mapapansin natin dyan sa second premise, it says some of law enforcers, meaning nag-iba yung quantity ng middle term, and it failed to connect the major and minor premise kasi ang middle term itself is the one na nag-change ng quantity from universal to some. So, I'll give you another example. All cats are animals, but some animals are mammals. Therefore, some cats are mammals. So, we know for a fact na lahat ng cats are mammals, and because of the changes sa middle term ng animals, nasira yung ang connection between minor and major term. So, let's proceed to fallacies according to quality. So fifth fundamental rules: if both major premise and minor premise are assertive or positive, the conclusion must always be assertive or positive. In this syllogism, it means that the two assertive premises result in an assertive conclusion as well. Therefore, in any premises those results to a negative or denial, the fallacious occurs. So, in this rule stated, kapag both the major and minor premise is a positive, it is important na pati ang conclusion is positive din. Hindi pwedeng biglang switch to a negative dahil that's when fallacious occur, since mawawalan ng connection ang overall statement. So, for example, all PUP of professors are promoters of education, but some PUP professors are business persons. Therefore, some business persons are not promoters of education. So, sa example, it shows how assertive or positive premises become a negative in conclusion. The major and minor premises are both positive, and the first premise, it says na all PUP professors daw are promoters of education, and the second premise naman, it says na some PUP professors are business persons. So, ang considerable conclusion is therefore some business persons are promoters of education. Pero in the case of the given example, biglang nag-focus sa negative side ang conclusion. Ang pinag-usapan is how both PUP professors and business persons connect as being promoters of education. But the conclusion shows how business persons are not promoters of education. So, nawala ang consistency because of the switch showing the fallacious of a negative conclusion. In this rule, kapag both the major and minor premise is positive, it is important na pati yung conclusion is positive din. Hindi pwedeng biglang switch to negative dahil uh, that's when fallacious occurs since mawawalan ng connection yung um, overall statement. So, itong example dito sa fifth fundamental rule is mali siya kasi yung major premise is a positive, then yung minor premise is positive, but yung conclusion dito is negative. So, dun sa rule kasi is, dapat yung both major and minor premise is positive, then yung conclusion is positive then.
Good morning, ma'am. I am Aubrey A. Parilla, and the topic that I'm about to discuss is the 6 to 10 fundamental rule under the fallacy according to quality. For 6 fundamental rules, if one of the major premise or the minor premise is negative, then the conclusion must also be negative. If the fundamental rule number 5 deals with the affirmative quality of the conclusion, in these fundamental rules deals with the negative quality of the conclusion. Therefore, the conclusion must not be assertive if this violates the fallacious occurs. For example, may arguments kayo and ang ginamit nyo na pang support doon sa arguments nyo is isang fallacies or ito yung error na reasoning is hindi siya pwede ma-attach doon sa argument nyo. For example, may arguments kayo tapos ginamitan nyo siya ng argumentatibong ad hominem which is attacking the person or ginagamitan nyo siya ng mga masasakit na salita. So, in that way, yung argument nyo is valid na siya. So, sa rule number 6 kasi, pag yung major premise is negative and your minor premise is negative, then, your conclusion must also be negative. For example, every factory worker is a helpful person, but some factory workers are not women. Therefore, some women are helpful persons. Pero dito kasi sa example na to, sa start pa lang ng arguments mo is negative na rin kasi hindi lahat ng factory worker is a helpful person. Tapos nag-support ka pa para ma-prove yung argument mo is ginamitan mo siya ng minor premise. Ibig sabihin, yung way ng pag-judge mo gamit ang 6 fundamental rules is negative. And ang rule kasi ng number 6 is ito yung if yung minor and major premise mo is negative, then your conclusion must also be negative. So, itong 6 fundamental rules is invalid yung arguments niya dito. For the 7th fundamental rules, the major premise and the minor premise must not be both negative or nor even equivalently assertive. In these 7 fundamental rules, it means that the middle term must not be denial of its function. If this will not happen, then the violation occurs. So, kung sa number 6 kasi is puro negative, sa 7 naman is hindi pwede na lahat ng gamitin mo is negative. For example, nagamit na major premise mo is negative, then isusupport mo siya ng positive or yung support mo is positive, yun yung minor premise is isusupport mo siya ng positive. For example, nag-start na kayo ng arguments nyo, tapos dun sa arguments nyo, kung yung main idea nyo is all about negative, then at least isusupport mo siya ng positive para hindi ma-cancel yung arguments mo. For example, I mean, kumpara kasi sa 6, na invalid na yung arguments doon, in-cancel na lahat doon kasi negative lahat. Dito kasi sa 7, for example, sa number 6, for example, nagtagal na kayo sa arguments nyo. Tas alam mong always na lang kayong na nakakancel. So, dito naman sa 7, since naisip mo na lahat ng banat mo is cancel, at least, dito yung support or yung pangalawa mong banat kahit papaano is positive para hindi makancel ang arguments nyo. For example, no moron is a philosopher but no moron is a politician. Therefore, no politician is a philosopher. So, etong example na to is negative na rin siya, 'di ba? Kasi hindi naman kasali ang politician or hindi na bakit pinasok ang politician which is hindi naman siya kasali sa evidences. So, ang ginamit niya lahat dito is for negative. So, ang conclusion na rin dito is negative na rin. So, itong example lang number 7 is negative to lahat, which is yung rule ng number 7 is hindi dapat lahat negative. So, nag-provide ako ng another example na masupport ng minor premise ang supporting details ng minor premise ang major premise para yung conclusion niya is hindi na rin maging negative. For example, all students who failed the final exam did not study adequately. Yun yung major premise. Ito naman yung minor. John did not study adequately for the final exam. So, positive na rin siya kasi kung sa major premise is, in general, lahat ng students is nag-fail sa final exam. Dito naman sa minor premise is naka-specific na siya for one students. Therefore, yung conclusion mo is John will fail the final exam. So, si John lang yung mag-fail sa final exam kasi doon sa minor premise mo is naka-specific lang para kay John. Pero kung dito yung sa major premise mo is negative na kasi in general. So, yun lang. For the 8 fundamental rules, it must that one premise be universal. In these 8 fundamental rules tells us that it matters not only in quality but also in quantity of the premises. Therefore, it demands that one premises must be universal quantifier. In this syllogism, it is deductive argument. Now, if the major premise and the minor premise are both particular, then the violation occurs. As you can see here sa example, is yung ginamit dito na word, eto, ay parehas silang particular. Tapos sa minor premise naman is particular nga, o nga. Then, the conclusion is, hindi siya akma doon. So, kasi diba, ang inductive reasoning, it is particular to general. Tapos, ang deductive naman is from general to particular. So, since ang argument is deductive, so dito sa example na to is naging particular lahat or naging error yung arguments dito. Ibig sabihin, dapat kung deductive ang arguments mo, at least yung major or yung minor premises is may isa doon sa kanila na universal. Dito kasi sa example, ang major and minor premises parehas silang particular. Sinasabi dito is deductive ang argument. Kasi 'di ba ang sum is particular. So kahit isa sa kanilang dalawa is dapat maging universal para kasi andun yung sa rule deductive reasoning from general to particular. Yung nakalagay dito sa example is particular silang lahat. Dapat kasi hindi magagawa ang arguments kung puro lahat sila particular. So, dapat etong example dito, papalitan mo ito ng universal, which is gagamitan natin to ng all. Ito, all. Yan na yung correct. Diyan na pumapasok ang deductive reasoning kasi nagsisimula siya sa general to particular. So, all supervisors are lawmakers but some, ito na yun, particular. Professional person are supervisors. Therefore, some professional persons are lawmakers. So, another example is ito. All musicians are creative individuals. So, nagsisimula siya sa general. But some musicians are not singers. Therefore, some singers are creative individuals. Ito yung correct na example. Nagsisimula siya sa deductive ay sa general to particular. For the ninth fundamental rules, if one of the major premise or minor premise is particular, then the conclusion must be also particular. In this ninth fundamental rule, at least one of the premises must be particular in order to put particular in the conclusion. If not, violation occurs. So dito sa nine fundamental rules, kung ang ginamit mo na major and minor is ay major premise is particular, tapos ang minor premise mo is particular din, so your conclusion must also be particular. Like for example, all singers are artists but some singers are Japanese. Therefore, all Japanese are artists. So, itong example na to is error siya. Bakit? Kasi ang pinag-uusapan dito sa ninth fundamental rules is particular. Tapos, ang major premise is universal, di ba? So, dapat kung sa 8 may isang universal, sa 9 naman dapat hindi sila lahat particular. So, dapat ito magiging some singer are artists, but some singers are Japanese. Therefore, some Japanese are artists. So, bakit? Kasi nga, 'di ba, kung ang major and minor mo is particular, then your conclusion must be also particular. So, yun yung sa 9 fundamental rules. So, for the 10th fundamental rules, the subject of the conclusion must be in the minor premise, and the conclusion must always be asserted. In this syllogism, nothing will be in the conclusion unless it must be in the premises. It means that the subject term is something that is being affirmed or denied. If this will not be followed, the violation occurs. So, sinasabi dito sa number 10, kung ang yung yung conclusion is makikita doon sa major premises mo, yun yung sa number 10. So, for example, ito pala. Every musician plays an instrument, but Taylor Swift is a musician. So, therefore, Ed Sheeran plays an instrument. So, itong example na to is error na siya kasi 'di ba sa 10th fundamental rule is ang rule doon is yung conclusion doon makikita sa premises. So, therefore, itong sa Ed Sheeran, hindi siya kasali doon. Labas na si Ed Sheeran. So, error na to siya. So, dapat ang ilagay dito is si Taylor Swift kasi siya ang nasa premises, nasa minor premise siya. So, itong si Ed Sheeran, left out na to kasi hindi siya kasali doon sa premises. So, therefore, yung conclusion mo is, therefore, Taylor Swift plays an instrument. Ganun lang kadali yung number 10. So, another example is, every president is a leader, but Ninoy Aquino III is a president. Therefore, Joseph Estrada is a leader. So, bakit napasok doon si Joseph Estrada? Is hindi naman siya kasali. Dapat, ang ilagay dito is, kung ano yung nakasaad, uulitin ko, kung ano yung nakasaad sa dalawang premises mo is, yun yung nakalagay sa conclusion. Dapat, ang nakalagay dito, every president is a leader, but Ninoy Aquino III is a president. Therefore, therefore, Ninoy Aquino III is a leader. Ganun lang siya kadali. Thank you.
And I am Candida A. Paragas and i-continue natin kung ano yung topic natin. I-continue natin yung topic na syllogism. And ang topic ko ngayon na i-discuss ko is about the figure and mood of categorical syllogism. So, hahanapin natin kung ano yung figure and mood ng proposition natin. So, na-discuss ng last reporter na ang categorical syllogism ay mayroong term, tatlong term. Yun yung major term, minor term, and middle term. And na-discuss din nila ang syllogism ay mayroong tatlong proposition. Yun yung first premises, second premises, and conclusion. So, ngayon, ang i-discuss natin is hahanapin natin kung ano yung figure and mood ng categorical syllogism natin or yung syllogism natin or yung proposition natin. So, ang figure 1 is mayroon tayong MP, SM, SP. So, meaning is middle term, M. Predicate for major term, and subject for minor term, and middle term, subject or minor term, and predicate or major term. So, sa figure 1, mayroon tayong dalawang special rule na dapat sundin sa pagbuo ng syllogism. First figure is subject to predicate. So, for example, first na rule natin is affirmative minor premises. Meaning, yung minor premises natin or yung subject natin is dapat affirmative or dapat positive siya. For example, every professional is well respected, but some Balanga policemen are professional. Therefore, some Balanga policemen are well respected. So, hanapin natin kung ano yung figure ng syllogism natin or yung categorical syllogism natin. Hanapin natin kung ano yung figure niya. So, di ba sinabi dito sa rule natin, kailangan yung subject natin is affirmative. So, di ba nasabi nila sa conclusion natin is yun yung predicate ng first premises natin and subject ng second premises natin. So, ito yung first premises, ito yung second premises, and ito yung conclusion natin. So, dito sa example natin, hahanapin natin kung ano yung figure natin. So, ito yung conclusion natin, di ba? So, sabi doon, ang predicate natin yung conclusion natin is predicate ng first premises natin. So, ang predicate natin is well respected. And ang subject natin is Balanga policeman. Some Balanga policeman. So, ito yung subject natin, ito yung predicate natin. Di ba yung predicate natin is makikita sa first premises natin. So, ito siya. So, ito yung predicate ng first premises natin. And, ang subject natin is makikita sa second premises natin, which is ito siya. So, hahanapin natin kung saan na naman yung middle term natin. So, saan ba natin makikita ang middle term natin? Always natin makikita ang middle term natin sa second premises and sa first premises. Makikita natin siya sa first premises and second premises, pero hindi natin makikita sa conclusion. So, saan dito yung middle term natin? So, ito yung middle term natin. Professional. So, makikita din siya dito sa first premises natin. So, ang subject natin dito is particular siya. SP meaning subject particular. And ang predicate naman natin is particular din siya. PP. meaning is predicate and particular. And ang middle term natin is particular din. MP. Diba? Middle term na particular. So, meaning, ang professional dito is universal kasi every. MU. So, bakit yung professional natin dito is particular? Dahil nga some. Iilan lang sa Balaga Policeman yung professional. So, dito, yung Balanga professional natin is particular. SP. SP din ito kasi nga particular siya. So, sinasabi na yung iba lang. So, ang well-respected natin dito is particular din. So, di ba? Makikita natin sa example natin yung figure 1 natin na MP, SP, and ISM, and ISF. ISP. Char. Sorry. And ang pangalawang rule natin is universal major premises. Meaning, yung universal natin is major premises. Yung major premises natin is universal siya. So, for example, sa ano natin is, every Christian is believe of God. But every Catholic is a Christian. Therefore, every Catholic is a believe of God. So, hahanapin natin dito kung ano yung figure natin. So, pero ito yung sinunod natin na rule. Another one, itong first na ito is first premises, second premises, and conclusion. So, dito, sa conclusion natin, ang predicate natin is ito. And ang subject natin is yan. So, ang subject natin dito is universal. Kasi every Catholic, meaning lahat ng Katoliko ay naniniwala or believe of God as you. So, universal. So, nasunod yung rule natin. And ang ano natin is particular. PP, yung predicate natin. So, dito, ang middle term natin is Christian. Ito yung middle term natin and ito. Yan yung middle term natin. So, dito is, ang middle term natin is particular. Dito is universal. So, ang dito natin is particular din. AP. So, lagi lang natin tatandaan na kapag hinahanap natin yung predicate and subject is mahanap natin sa conclusion. Dito talaga natin makikita sa conclusion yung subject and predicate natin. And ang middle term is makikita din natin sa first premises and second premises. Balikan natin yung first rule natin. So, yung first example natin is valid and itong second example natin is invalid. Kasi hindi nasunod yung rules natin. Kaya invalid yung itong example natin. No summon. So, negative siya. Dahil dyan, naging negative yung
example natin. Kasi ang sabi sa rule natin, kailangan is positive yung premises natin. And dito sa conclusion natin, an agricultural land and no samal, ito yung subject natin. And ang agricultural land is ito yung predicate natin sa first premises. Itong subject natin is universal, SU, universal. And an agricultural land is PP, predicate particular. Ang province natin is middle universal. Middle universal. Then sa first premises natin is MU din, universal din. And yung agricultural natin is PP, predicate particular. PP, predicate particular. So, ito yung second example natin na invalid. Yung first example natin is valid. And dito na naman sa second rule natin is yung pangalawang example natin is invalid din. Yung temable natin is PP, predicate particular, and ang samal natin is SP, subject particular, and sa first premises natin, yung temable natin is particular din, predicate particular, and yung animals natin is MP, middle predicate. So, proceed naman tayo sa mood. Hahanapin natin kung ano yung mood natin. So, dito sa mood natin is A, all subject are predicate. So, meaning lahat ng subject mo is predicate. Sa A, no subject are predicate. Ang A, hindi mo nila lahat. Yung subject natin is predicate. Sa E na naman, hindi mo nila lahat. So, sa A is nila lahat mo. Sa I is some subject are predicate. Sa I na naman, ang sinasabi mo, yung ibang subject lang yung predicate. Sa O na naman is some subject are not predicate. So, sinasabi mo na yung ibang subject ay hindi predicate. Sa I, some lang yung tinutukoy mo. Sa E, wala. And sa A is lahat. Proceed na naman tayo sa valid mood natin. Ito yung example ng valid mood natin. So, AAA for daraga, EAE for pace, EII for radii, and EIO for mimeo. So, dito sa AAA natin, yung major premises, minor premises, and yung conclusion natin is particular siya lahat. Nilalahat mo talaga. So, every freeman is considerate. So, nilalahat mo na freeman is considerate. But all adults are men. So, nilalahat mo din yung adult is men. Therefore, all adults are responsible. So, nilalahat mo din na lahat ng adults is responsible sa kanilang mga act. So, dito na naman sa EAE is yung first premises natin, yung major premises natin is no greedy person is considerate. So, sinasabi mo na walang greedy na person na considerate. So, wala sa subject natin, walang subject na predicate. Sa minor premises natin na but all ambitious person are greedy. So, nilalahat mo. Lahat ng subject natin is predicate. Lahat ng ambitious person is greedy. Dito na naman sa conclusion natin, no ambitious person is considerate. So, sinasabi mo dito na walang ambitious person na considerate. Dito na naman sa AII radii is yung first premises natin is affirmative, and dito na naman sa second premises natin, minor premises natin is hindi mo yung iba lang yung sinasabi mo. Iba lang yung sinasabi. So, all talkative individuals are narrow-minded. So, lahat ng talkative individual is narrow-minded. But some men are talkative individuals. So, sinasabi mo na yung ibang mga lalaki is talkative. Therefore, some men are narrow-minded. Yung ibang, sinasabi naman dito na yung ibang mga lalaki is narrow-minded. Kaya yung ibang mga lalaki is narrow-minded. So, proceed naman tayo sa EIOO for Mimeo. No virtuous act is evil, but some punishment are virtuous act. Therefore, some punishment are not evil. So yung major premises natin, wala. Yung I na naman is yung iba. And dito na naman sa conclusion natin, yung iba ay hindi. So, di ba? Sinabi ko kanina sa inyo, yung I natin is wala sa subject natin na predicate. Sa I na naman natin is yung ibang subject natin is predicate. And yung O natin is yung ibang subject natin is hindi predicate. So, ito yung valid mood natin. AAA for daraga, EAE for pace, EII for radii, and last, EIO for mimeo. So, itong mga daraga, phase, radii, mimeo, ito lang yung nickname ng natin, yung mood natin. Ito yung nickname niya. Hindi yan, it's up to you kung ano yung lalagay mo na nickname ng mood ng syllogism mo para na mabilis mo lang matandaan na ito is AAA. Kasi daraga. So EAA lahat, 'di ba? Makikita mo dito sa mga nickname nila yung mood ng syllogism natin. So, another example sa ating first rule sa affirmative minor premises is some fruits are sweet, but all mango is fruits. Therefore, all mango is sweet. So, ang sabi dito is kailangan yung minor premises natin is affirmative, positive siya. Kapag itong all na ito is naging no, meaning negative na yun siya, invalid na yun siya. So, itong first premises natin, ito yung tinatawag nating major premises, and ito yung minor premises, and ito yung conclusion natin. Then, hahanapin na naman natin kung ano yung saan dito yung subject ng conclusion natin and predicate ng conclusion natin. So, ganun din sa binigay kong example nung first na example ko, ang predicate natin is sweet, P, U, universal siya, and yung mango natin, ito yung subject natin. Universal yung subject natin. And dito sa minor premises natin is universal din siya. SU. Then yung fruits natin, ito yung middle term natin. And universal siya. Ang fruits din natin dito is particular. And ang sweet natin na predicate is particular. So, next example is all liars are bad. But some people is liars. Therefore, some people is bad. So, valid pa rin yung example natin. Valid din ito siya. So, ganun pa rin yung paghanap natin ng term natin kung minor premises. Doon din natin makikita. Dito rin natin makikita yung predicate, subject, middle term, subject, middle term, subject. So, ang subject natin dito is particular. SP, And yung predicate natin dito is particular. Dito na naman is universal. P-U. And yung subject, ay yung middle term natin dito is U. And ang middle term natin dito is particular. And dito, yung subject natin is particular. So, ganun din sa example na ito. Ito yung major premises, minor premises, and conclusion natin. Ito rin yung predicate natin. Ito din yung subject natin. Ito din yung subject natin. Ito yung middle term natin, and predicate natin. Ang conclusion natin is predicate ng major premises natin and subject ng minor premises natin. Again, ang rule ang conclusion natin is ang subject niya is minor premises, doon makukuha yung subject ng conclusion natin, and ang predicate natin is makukuha sa major premises natin. So, ang middle term natin, makikita natin sa major premises and minor premises. So, proceed naman tayo sa universal major premises. So, dito sa rule na ito, kailangan universal talaga yung major premises natin. Kapag ang major premises natin is hindi siya pangkalahatan, particular lang siya, magiging invalid yung syllogism natin. For example, every cream self is conditioner. But some hair mask is cream self. Therefore, some hair mask is a conditioner. So, itong example na ito is valid siya. Kasi yung major premises natin is particular siya. And yung second premises natin is particular lang. Okay lang na particular yung second premises natin as long as yung major premises natin is particular siya. So, same din dito. Ito yung particular ay predicate natin. Ito yung subject natin. Ito yung subject natin. Ito yung middle term natin. Ito rin yung middle term natin. Ito din yung predicate natin. So, ganun din sa example na ito. Itong example na ito is valid din siya. And itong example na ito, valid din siya. All men are mortal, but all dogs are mortal. Therefore, all dogs are men. So, ang major premises natin is universal siya. Pangkalahatan siya. So, valid ito siya. So, same din dito yung paghanap natin kung particular or middle term or minor term siya. So, dito is, every soap is a body wash. But, every dove is body wash. Therefore, every dove is soap. So, valid din ito siya. So, itong example na ito is, some toddlers are cute, but all baby is cute. Therefore, all baby is toddlers. So, itong example na ito is invalid siya. Invalid siya kasi nga yung major premises natin is particular. Hindi siya universal. Ayon sa rule natin, kailangan ang major term natin is universal. So, proceed na naman tayo sa figure 2 natin. So, ang figure 2 natin is PM, SM, and SP. Predicate, middle term, subject, and middle term, subject, and predicate. So, sa figure 2, mayroon din tayong dalawang special rule. Ang first special rule natin is one premises must be negative to avoid fallacy to undistribute middle term. So, para maiwasan natin na maging undistribute yung middle term natin, kailangan yung isa sa premises natin is negative. So, for example, all physicians are doctor, but Zoe is not doctor. Therefore, Zoe is not physician. So, Bisa example natin, ang minor premises natin is negative. Negative, not doctor. So, hanapin natin kung ano yung figure ng example natin. Same din sa figure 1. Ang conclusion natin is subject ng minor premises natin and predicate ng major premises natin. So, predicate, si Zoe is ang subject natin. Dito, subject din natin si Zoe. At ito yung middle term natin. Middle term, ang position natin is particular siya. Particular, and ang doctor natin is middle term. Kapag ang middle term natin is makita natin sa conclusion, invalid na yung syllogism natin. Kasi hindi natin nasunod yung patakaran or yung rules ng figure natin or categorical syllogism natin. So, another example, all dancers are teacher, but Annalyn is not teacher. Therefore, Annalyn is not dancer. So, dito is negative din yung middle term natin or yung minor premises natin. So, ayon kasi sa rules natin, kailangan isa sa premises natin, either yung major premises or minor premises, kailangan may isa sa kanila na negative. Para ma-avoid natin yung fallacy na undistribute middle term. So, ganun pa rin. Ito pa rin yung predicate natin. Si Annalyn pa rin yung subject natin. Si Annalyn pa rin dito yung subject natin. And si teacher pa rin yung middle term natin. And dito si teacher din yung middle term natin. And dancer is ang predicate natin. So, another example, or tuna is fish, but rice is not fish. Therefore, rice is not tuna. So, the same din, valid din yung example natin. So, ganun pa rin, ito pa rin yung predicate natin, ito pa rin yung subject natin, ito rin yung subject natin, ito din yung middle term natin, predicate, subject, si tuna pa rin yung predicate natin, and si fish naman yung middle term natin. So, another example na naman, last example sa first rule natin sa figure 2. So, all painting is art, but music is not art. Therefore, music is not art. I'm sorry, art. Painting. Sorry, nadala sa tona. So, ang example natin dito is all painting is not art, but music is not art. Therefore, music is not painting. Si painting pa rin yung predicate natin. Si music pa rin yung subject natin. Subject pa rin natin si music dito. And ito yung middle term natin, si art. Art pa rin yung middle term natin. And painting is ang predicate natin. So, proceed na naman tayo sa special rule number 2 natin. So, figure 2 ito na special rule number 2. So, ang rule natin is major premises must be universal. Kailangan yung major premises natin is universal siya. So, for example is all books are reading materials. So, ito yung major premises natin, ito yung minor premises natin, and ito yung conclusion natin. Ang minor premises natin, but TV is not a reading premises. Therefore, TV is not book. So, ang second premises natin, di ba nakikita nyo, negative siya. Okay lang yan. Valid pa rin ito siya. As long as yung major premises natin is positive or universal. Kailangan yung first premises natin is universal. So, ganun pa rin. Ito pa rin yung predicate natin. Books. And ang subject natin is si TV. Predicate, subject, and itong reading materials natin, sila yung middle term natin. Si reading materials, siya ang middle term natin, and si books is yung predicate natin. So, another example, some Filipino are American citizen, but no Japanese is an American citizen. Thus, no Japanese Filipino. So, itong example natin is invalid siya kasi yung major premises natin is hindi siya universal. Ang tinutukoy niya is yung ibang Pilipino lang. Ibang Pilipino lang. Hindi niya sinabi na Filipino or every Filipino are American citizen. So, ganun pa rin si Filipino pa rin yung predicate natin. And si American citizen pa rin yung middle term natin. And si Japanese pa rin yung subject natin. Si Japanese yung subject natin. Filipino yung predicate natin. And si American citizen pa rin yung middle term natin. So, another example, some cell phone is iPhone. But no TV is iPhone. Thus, no TV is cellphone. So, invalid itong example natin kasi itong first premises natin, yung major premises natin is particular. Kaya invalid siya. So, another example, all mammals are warm blood, but elephants are warm blood. Therefore, elephants are mammals. So, itong example natin is positive siya. Positive yung sinasabi natin. Pero, itong first premises natin is universal. Kaya, valid pa rin yung example natin. Ganon pa rin, si mammals pa rin yung predicate natin. And si mammals sa major premises din natin yung predicate natin. Si warm-blooded pa rin yung middle term natin. Si elephant yung subject natin. Elephant yung subject natin. Si blood-warm pa rin yung middle term natin. So, dito is some brush is toothbrush, but no toothbrush are toothbrush. No toothpaste are toothbrush. No toothpaste are toothbrush. So, negative yung natin, yung syllogism natin. And invalid pa rin ito kasi nga si major premises natin is particular. So, ganun pa rin, si brush pa rin yung particular natin. Si brush pa rin yung particular natin dito sa major premises. And sa conclusion natin is particular pa rin. Sa conclusion natin, ang toothpaste yung subject natin. Sa minor premises natin, si toothpaste pa rin yung subject natin. And si toothbrush yung middle term natin sa minor premises natin. And sa major premises natin is middle pa rin yung toothbrush natin. So, proceed na naman tayo sa valid mood ng figure 2 natin. So, sa valid mood natin sa figure 2 is number 1, E for face. And number 2, AEE for failure. And EIO for stereo. And number 4 is EOO for Tibo. So, dito, ang first premises natin, yung major premises natin is no virtuous act is men. Wala sa subject natin yung predicate. Diba sinabi ko sa inyo, ang A, wala sa subject natin yung predicate. So, meaning walang virtuous act na men. But all selfish act are men. Sa minor premises natin is particular kasi nilalahat niya. Lahat daw ng selfish act is men. So, ang conclusion natin is E. Therefore, no selfish act is virtuous act. So, wala daw selfish act na virtuous act. And number 2 is all circumfection is prudent. So, nilalahat din. Lahat ng circumspection is prudent. Ang minor premises natin, but no precipitation is prudent. So, wala daw precipitation na prudent. And ang conclusion natin is, therefore, no precipitation is circumspection. So, wala daw precipitation na circumspection. Kaya, E. Kasi nga, ang first premises natin is particular, and ang minor premises natin is universal yung first premises natin, and particular yung minor premises natin. And number 3 is EIO, stereo. No angel is man, but some animals are men. Therefore, some animals are not angel. So, EIO na mode siya. So, number 4, last mode ng figure 2 is EOO. All vain people are proud, but some men are not proud. Therefore, some men are not vain. So, that's all, and thank you. Once again, I am Canida A. Paragas, and I am the third reporter. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Norain Ali Pulayagan, and this is the topic that I will be discussing, which is the rules for figure 3 and 4 and their valid moods. This rule is a part of syllogism, which are logically argument with 3 parts. We all know what is the 3 parts, right? This is the major premise, minor premise, and the conclusion. We all know that the premise is a statement that are assumed to be true. The major premise is a general statement about a category, and the minor premise is statement about a specific case within the category. So the conclusion naman is a statement that follows logically from the premises. So that is the 3 parts of logical arguments. So now, in special rules for figure 3, the number 1 rule here, it states here that the minor premise must be affirmative to avoid the fallacy of illicit major. What is fallacy? Fallacy is a logical error, right? This fallacy occurs when the conclusion makes a broader claim than what is stated in the major premise. In other words, the conclusion tries to apply the major premises to a wider group than it actually covers. Sa madaling salita, ang illicit major or fallacy of illicit major is pag ang conclusion natin is mas broader siya doon sa major premises natin, which is dapat hindi. Dapat kung ano lang yung ano doon sa major premises mo is hindi ka dapat mag-broader claim sa conclusion mo. This rule state that the minor premises must be affirmative, meaning kailangan ang minor premises natin is affirmative siya. Meaning, nagsistate lang siya ng positive, hindi negative. So this is to avoid the fallacy of illicit major. That's the rule say. So example, the example here provided, this is a valid syllogism. For example, all dogs are mammals. My pet is a dog. At conclusion is, therefore, my pet is a mammal. Valid siya kasi affirmative yung minor premises natin. Hindi siya contradict doon sa major premises natin. So that's why it is a valid syllogism. This is a positive yung minor premises natin. Hindi siya negative. Let's proceed to the invalid syllogism. So ito naman yung example ng invalid syllogism. Or this is what we call the illicit major fallacy. Example, some mammals are furry. Minor premises, my pet is not furry. Conclusion, therefore, my pet is not a mammal. So this is invalid syllogism. Kasi the minor premises only state that some mammals are furry. So the conclusion, however, incorrectly apply this to all mammals, leading to the fallacy of illicit major. The rule about the minor premises being affirmative help this to prevent this fallacy because affirmative minor premise, it confirms that the specific case belong to the category mentioned in the major premise. So this prevents the conclusion from making an overgeneralized claim. Some of you might ask kung negative ba yung minor premises natin, automatic ba siya na invalid, which is hindi naman siya as in magiging invalid. This is it significantly lang to risk the committing the fallacy. Pag negative yung minor premises natin, hindi siya automatically magiging mali. When the minor premise is negative, it is easier to accidentally make a broader claim in the conclusion because you are focusing on what's not included. So rather than what is included, that is the number 1 rules and figure 3. Let's move on to the number 2 rule. It states here that the conclusion must be particular. If not, the violation of this rule gives rise to fallacy of illicit minor. So kung kanina ang topic natin is illicit major, ito naman is illicit minor. So pag sinabi naman natin illicit minor, occurs when the conclusion makes a broader claim about the entire category mentioned in the minor premise, even though the minor premise only refers to a specific case within the category. Same lang doon sa major premises, nag-broader claim ka sa conclusion. Ang pagkaibahan lang is dito sa minor premise is entire category na. Yung entire category na siya. This conclusion must be particular. This means that the conclusion should not make a general statement about the entire category mentioned in the minor premise. It should only apply the conclusion to the specific case mentioned in the minor premise. For example, this is a valid example. So, major premise, all dogs are mammal. My pet is a dog. Minor premise, conclusion, therefore, my pet is a mammal. Applies only to the specific dog mentioned in the minor premise, my pet. This is valid because the minor premise is affirmative. It states that my pet is a dog. Okay, so the conclusion particular, it doesn't say all pets are mammal. Instead, it only states that my pet, a specific dog, okay, is a mammal. So that is become invalid. So kung i-invalid naman natin siya, this is the example would be, major premise, all dogs are mammal. My pet is a dog, therefore all pets are mammal. So this conclusion is invalid because it makes a general statement about all pets, even though the minor premise only mention my pet. This violation the rule of the conclusion being particular and commit the fallacy of illicit minor. That is the rule for number 2. Let's proceed to the valid modes of figure 3. So actually, ito lang yung mga proposition na na-report ni Ms. Ismael. So yung that is the 4 proposition. Ito lang yung mga nila, kung saan sila belong. Ito namang mga word na to, yung mga Makati, Misamis, Halili, is lang yan siya. Just a given name to each valid modes of syllogism. They are not related to any specific place or meaning. Para lang yan siya. It is just a way to make it easier to remember. Kita nyo yung sa kita nyo yung sa Makati, tapos ginamit nyo yung AAI. So that is Yang misamis naman, ginamit niya yung IAI asa ginamitan niya ng word. So that is just a name. So wala yan sa ano. This is a valid moods. This is kung saan sila dapat doon sa proposition na gi-report ni Mrs. Arhama. Yung mga universal affirmative, yung mga particular. So that is. Let's move on to the special rules in figure 4. So, number 1 rule in figure 4, if the major premise is affirmative, the minor premise must be universal to ensure the avoidance of the fallacy of undistributed middle term. So, ang middle term po is term that appears in both premises but not in the conclusion. So, that is the middle term. Okay, so let's unlock first what is distributed and undistributed in logic. Distributed is a term when the statement refers to all members of the category. It is like saying we are talking about every single one of these things. That is the distributed. Basta distributed is applied to all member. Okay, so undistributed naman is when the statements refer to some member of the category. Some member lang siya. It is like saying we're talking about at least few. So at least few lang of these things but not necessary all of them. Few lang siya. And distributed lahat. Tapos sa ano is some lang or few. Back tayo sa topic, sa rule. If the major premise is affirmative, the minor premise must be universal to ensure the avoidance of the fallacy of undistributed middle term. So this rule state that the major premise of syllogism is affirmative. Kailangan nag-use siya ng all or some. The minor premise must be universal. So kailangan naman gumagamit siya ng all to avoid the fallacy of undistributed middle term. Let me give you an example of invalid syllogism in this rule. Major premises, all Mangyans are native. Affirmative siya. But some natives are Filipinos, not universal. So, therefore, some Filipinos are Mangyan. Invalid siya. The middle term natives is not distributed in the minor premise rather. It is a fallacy of undistributed middle term. So, ang native is hindi siya na-distribute sa minor premise. That's why naging illicit of undistributed middle term. So, let's proceed to the valid example. All dogs are mammals. Affirmative. All mammals are warm-blooded, universal. Therefore, all dogs are warm-blooded. The middle term mammals is distributed in both premises.
And at the same time, it is aligned with the rule that if the major premise is affirmative, the minor premise must be universal. So that's why this argument is valid.
Let's proceed to the number 2 in figure 4. If the minor premise is affirmative, the conclusion must be particular. Otherwise, violation of illicit minor term will be committed. The rule states if the minor premise of a syllogism is affirmative, the conclusion must be particular. Uses some, kailangan gumagamit lang siya ng some doon sa conclusion. Pag affirmative yung minor premises natin. Okay. This rule ensures that the conclusion does not make a broader statement about the minor term than what it's supposed by the minor premise. Okay, so when the minor premise is affirmative in a syllogism and the conclusion must be particular, the minor term must be distributed in either the minor premises or the conclusion, but not both. This ensure logical consistency and validity in the argument. So, pag ang minor premises daw natin is affirmative at ang conclusion naman natin is particular, dapat ang minor term is it's either na-distribute siya sa major premises or sa minor premises. Isa lang doon sa dalawa. So, that is to ensure the logical consistency and validity in the argument. Okay, so example of invalid syllogism. Your premises, all religious are unmarriageable, but all unmarriageable are blessed person. Therefore, every blessed person is religious. Why it is invalid? Because every blessed person, the conclusion, every blessed person is religious is a universal statement that refers to all blessed person, indicating that it is not particular. Since the conclusion is universal and not particular, it does not align with the rule with the minor promises affirmative. The conclusion must be particular to avoid the fallacy of illicit minor term. Kaya siya naging mali kasi ang minor promises natin is affirmative. The conclusion is universal. Another example. So this is the example of valid syllogism. All movies are innovative, but all which are innovative are profitable things. Therefore, some profitable things are movies. The minor term is distributed in the minor premise and it states that all which are innovative are profitable things. Therefore, some profitable things are movies. It's particular to refer to some profitable things which align with the rule with the minor premise is affirmative. So the conclusion is particular, directly derived from the affirmative minor premise without overreaching rather to universal claim. It maintains logical consistency and adhere to the rule. When the minor promise is affirmative, the conclusion must be particular. So therefore, the example is valid because the conclusion is particular, reflecting the information provided in the affirmative minor premise without committing the fallacy of illicit minor term. The distribution of the minor term is in the premises and conclusion is consistent and support a valid syllogism argument.
And this is the third rule for figure 4. It states here that if one of the premises is negative, the major premise must be universal. The third rule aims to avoid the illicit process of the major term, since it is the subject in the major premise and the predicate in the conclusion. If one premise is negative, the conclusion must also be negative. Now, if the major premise is not universal, consequently its subject, which is the major term, is particular. This leads to illicit process of the major term. This rule aims to avoid the illicit process of the major term. This means that the major term should not be used in a way that is not supported by the premises. So sabi nga kanina, kung isa sa premise ay negative, ang conclusion also be negative. Let me give you an invalid example. Major premise, some carnivorous animals are lions. Minor premise, but no lion is a herbivorous creature. Conclusion, therefore, no herbivorous creatures are carnivorous animals. So this argument is invalid because the major premise is not universal. The major term is carnivorous animals, and the premise only states that some carnivorous animals are lions. This is not a universal statement. So ito naman yung valid example. Major premise, all law-abiders are not bad citizens. Minor premise, but some bad citizens are cops. Conclusion, therefore some cops are not law-abiders. So, this argument is valid kasi the major premise is universal. The major term is law-abiders and the premise states that all law-abiders are not bad citizens. This is a universal statement. And that's all my report. Thank you.
So our next topic is all about the hypothetical syllogism. So in order to understand the deep meaning of the hypothetical syllogism, it needs to comprehend the two basic parts of hypothetical syllogism, which are the antecedent and the consequence. So consequence, I mean antecedents, which means something that goes before, while the consequence, something that goes after. So in short, antecedent must be the first and then followed by the consequence. So because hypothetically it needs to use the phrase if and then, because in short, or in therefore, hypothetical syllogism is one wherein the major premise is hypothetical and the categorical is the minor premise and the conclusion. So in order to understand the meaning of hypothetical or what is hypothetical syllogism, I'm gonna give examples. Then let's identify which or where are the antecedent and the consequence. So example here is, if armed forces of the Philippines are soldiers, then they are combatant. So, yun yung major premise natin, which is yung MP natin. So, saan dito yung antecedent and consequence natin sa major premises na binigay natin? So, ang antecedent sa major premise natin na binigay is, if armed forces of the Philippines are soldier, which is yun yung antecedent natin. Kasi 'di ba, like I said earlier, yung antecedent natin yun yung something that goes before, or in short yung if. While the consequence naman natin here sa major premise natin is, then they are combatants. Kasi 'di ba, yung consequence is something that goes after, which is yung then or yung kasunod ng antecedent. That is the example of hypothetical syllogism. So, in order to understand again the hypothetical syllogism, I'm gonna give a more example about this topic. So, here is another example. So, if it is cold outside, then I wear a jacket. Yun yung major premise natin. So, ang antecedent natin dito is the sentence, if it is cold outside. Yun yung antecedent natin. While yung consequence natin dun sa major premise na binigay ko is yung, then I wear a jacket. Kasi 'di ba, like I said earlier again and again, antecedent is something that goes before, while the consequent is something that goes after, which is in short, to be clear or para mas maintindihan nyo lalo, always isipin nyo na lang or always remember na lang na once may nakita kayong word na if, yun yung antecedent natin. And pag may nakita na kayo sa kasunod doon na then, yun yung consequence natin para di kayo malito. So, another example, last example. If it is a holiday, then the office is closed. So, our antecedent is if it is a holiday. 'Di ba? Kasi merong if. Kasi 'di ba, sabi ang antecedent is something that goes after, ay before, while the consequent is something that goes after. Or in hypothetically, it needs to use the phrase if and then. So, the antecedent in that sentence is if it's a holiday, while the consequence is then the office is closed. That is the hypothetical syllogism. So, there are three kinds of hypothetical syllogism, which are the conditional syllogism, the disjunctive syllogisms, the conjunctive syllogism, but I only discuss the conditional syllogism only. So, conditional syllogism. So, conditional syllogism, or in order to understand or to comprehend the conditional syllogism, it needs to mention the antecedent and the or consequence as the two main composition of hypothetical syllogisms. So in this concept, it relates also the principle of cause and the effect. So in short, antecedent or antecedent, which is the cause, and the consequence, which is the effort. Again, the antecedent is the cause, while the consequent is the effect. So, example. So, example is, if you are handsome, then you are admirers. Diba ang sabi ko kanina, yung antecedent, yun yung cause, while yung consequent, yun yung effect. So, ang antecedent natin dito is if you are handsome, kasi yun yung cause, 'di ba? So, ano ba magiging effect kung gwapo ka, 'di ba? Ang mangyayari doon, magkakaroon ka ng admirers, which is yun yung nakalagay sa major premise natin. Kasi yung major premise natin is, if you are handsome, then you have admirers. So, ang minor premise natin dito, yung you are handsome, which is the cause. While the ergo or the conclusion natin, or the the conclusions natin doon sa major premise na binigay ko is, you have admirers. Yun yung sa sa conditional syllogism natin, which is yung antecedent, yung cause, while yung consequence natin is yung effect. So, in this example, the MP or the minor premise is the affair, the consequent of the MP, which is the major premise. And the conclusion expresses the assertion I'm sorry, the assertions of the MP or the minor premise natin. So, naintindihan naman siguro um, yung conditional, right? Always remember that the conditional in the hypothetical syllogism, which is yung antecedent, yun yung cause, while yung consequence natin, which is yun yung effect. That is the conditional syllogism. But in conditional syllogism, meron ito siyang two. I mean, we have two fundamental processes governing the validity of conditional syllogism, which are the posetting moods and the sublating moods. So, posetting moods, which means that the minor premise or our antecedent makes influences assertively on the respective conclusions, which is the consequence. Therefore, if the antecedent is true and sequence is valid, then the sequence is true. While in the sublating mood, which means that the process of expressing the arguments is denying or asserting the premise to be false. Therefore, if the consequence is false and the sequence is valid, then the antecedent is also false. First, remember that the difference of two, or the differences of what is this? The difference of posetting mood in sublating moods, okay? So, I'm gonna give an example so you can understand it deeply what is the the differences of posetting and the subjugating. So, I'm gonna give sentence or major premise. Then i-convert natin siya as a posetting and subjugating, ay sublating mood, right? Okay. So, the first example is or the first example in this topic is here the major premise. If you are my wife, then you are married to me. So, paano natin malalaman if or paano ba natin, ano ba yung way para gawin natin or ano yung way para ma-identify if sublating ba siya or posetting mood ba siya? So, first muna is yung posetting mood. Posetting? Yes, the posetting mood. So, i-convert natin itong major premise na binigay as a posetting mood. So, di ba kanina ang sabi ko, yung posetting mood is the antecedent is true and the sequence is valid. Then the consequence is true. While the sublating mood naman, di ba? Last I said earlier kanina, in the consequent natin is false, but the sequence is valid, then the antecedent is false. Remember that, remember the rules, okay? So, in order to convert or to understand the difference of posetting and also the sublating, so, i-convert natin yung major premise na binigay ko kanina. So, di ba sabi ko kanina, yung major premise natin is yung, if you are my wife, then you are married to me. So, first gagawin muna natin or gagamitin natin is yung posetting premise. So, paano siya i-convert? So, ano yung way, di ba, para i-convert? So, ganito lang siya. Kasi sa posetting dapat is true lahat, 'di ba? Dapat kung valid yung sequence ay kung true yung yung antecedent natin, dapat yung consequent natin is valid din or true din. So here, if you are my wife, then you are married to me. So in posetting mood, ganito yung mangyayari. But you are my wife, therefore you are married to me. So kumbaga positive siya, 'di ba? Kasi sabi yung posetting mood dapat true siya lahat. Kung true man yung antecedent niya and the sequence is valid, dapat yung consequence is true, 'di ba? Yun yung nasa rules natin. So, paano naman siya kapag nasa sublating mood? So, in sublating mood naman, kanina 'di ba, sabi ko yung consequence, if ever yung consequence natin is false or yes, false, but the consequence is false. So, our sequence is valid, therefore our antecedent is also false. So, paano siya gagawing sublating mood? So, kung gagawin ganito yung magiging way if gagawin natin siyang sublating mood, unlike doon sa possessing mood. So, in sublating mood, ganito siya. But, you are not my wife. Therefore, you are not married to me. Kumbaga, parang negative siya, di ba? Unlike doon sa possessing mood na kumbaga positive siya. Kasi 'di ba, in subletting mood ganito yung nangyari lang is like ganun sa binigay kong example kanina, 'di ba? Yung sa possessing mood, you are my wife, therefore you are married to me. Yun yung sa possessing mood. While sa subletting mood naman, but you are not my wife, therefore you are not married to me. So yun yung difference ng dalawa. Mas maintindihan if in case na may mga question pa kayo about the hypothetical, the conditional, the possessing, and also the subjugating, feel free to ask me, then I will answer it to you. Or if mahiyaman kayo magtanong sa GC natin, pwede naman kayo, feel free to PM me. So, I hope you understand my topic. That's all.
Good morning, everyone. I am Anissa Kamsabra, and my report is all about disjunctive syllogism. Okay, so what is disjunctive syllogism? So disjunctive syllogism is a type of logical argument that involves either or statement. So when we say disjunctive syllogism, it is a type of logical argument where you have two possibilities and use them to reach a conclusion. Okay, so there are three parts of disjunctive syllogism, which are major premise, minor premise, and conclusion. So the first one is major premise. So major premise, it is a disjunctive propositions that present two or more alternatives. Either A or B is true. For instance, it is raining or it is sunny. So, maaaring umulan o maaaring umaraw. So, the second one is minor premise. Minor premise, it asserts that one of the alternatives is not true, which is A is not true. For instance, it is not raining. So, hindi uulan. And the last part is conclusion. So conclusion, it includes that the remaining alternatives must be true, which is, therefore, B is true. For instance, it is sunny. Therefore, it is sunny. So, therefore, pwedeng umaraw. In this example, the major premise presents two possibilities which are raining or sunny, and minor premise denies one of these possibilities, which is it is not raining, and the conclusion confirms or affirms the remaining possibilities, which is it is sunny. And that will be all. Thank you.
Okay, so good day everyone. So I am the last reporter in our group. So my report is all about the special variation of syllogism. So in the first part of the video, they discuss the categorical and hypothetical syllogism. So in my task, in my report, special variation of syllogism does not need or it does not follow the pattern like categorical and hypothetical syllogism. So in a special variation of syllogism, there are four part of the special variation. First is the intimim, second is epicrim, third is the sorites, and then lastly is the dilemma. Okay, so first special variation of syllogism is called intimim. So intimim comes from the Greek word in, which means in, and tumos, which means mind. So in etymological speaking, it means in mind. So intimim is a kind of syllogism wherein either a premise or the conclusion is totally omitted. So in intimim, there are a part of the statement na nawawala. It's either the major, minor, and the conclusion. So there are three order in this a part of the intimim. First, second, and third order. So, I will give an example in my PPT that can for you to understand the first and second, third order of the intimim. Here in my example, the major premise is the every singer is an artist. And the minor premise is, but John Dewey is a singer. And the conclusion is, therefore, John Dewey is an artist. So, in first order, the major premise is omitted. So, it becomes, John Dewey is a singer. Therefore, John Dewey is an artist. So, ang major premise na every singer is an artist is nawawala. So, sa first order is nawawala ang major premise na every singer is an artist. But still, the arguments holds based on the minor premise. Naiintindihan pa din natin yung statement even though nawawala yung major premise niya based on the minor premise. And then the second order is the minor premise. So, yung minor premise naman ang nawawala. So, it becomes every singer is an artist. Therefore, John Dewey is an artist. So, pansin nyo, di ba? The minor premise is nawawala. So, ang major premise naman at saka conclusion sa statement ang nakikita or ang ating nababasa. So, sa third order naman is the conclusion is omitted. So, it becomes every singer is an artist, but John Dewey is a singer. So, even though nawawala yung conclusion, is understandable pa din yung statement. Understandable pa din kahit may nawawalang isang part ng statement. So, I will give you another example. So, the major premise in my example is all human die. The minor premise naman is Juan is a human. And the conclusion is, therefore, Juan will die. So, in first order, the major premise are omitted or missing. So, it becomes Juan is a human. Therefore, Juan will die. And then the second order is the minor premise are missing. So, it becomes all human die. Therefore, Juan will die. The major in the conclusion is included in the statement, while the minor naman is nawawala. But still, the statement is understandable. And the third order naman is the conclusion is missing. So, all human die, Juan is a human. So, still, understandable pa din siya kahit walang conclusion. It becomes, all human die, Juan is a human. So, the conclusion is missing. So, in a first order, always remember that in a first order, the major premise are missing. In the second order, the minor premise is missing. And then the last order or the third order is the conclusion is missing. So, that's what we call the intimim. There are a part of statement na nawawala or missing, but still the statement is understandable. So, that is intimim. So, the second special variation of syllogism is the epigram syllogism. So, epigram syllogism comes from the Greek word epe, which means on, and the gir, which means hand. So, it is one or both premise are supported by explanations which indicate in a proposition. It needed to use connective clauses like since, for, because for the statement para mas lalong maintindihan yung statement, para madagdagan pa ng other information yung statement. So, there are two part of the epigram, which is the simple and compound epigram syllogism. So, first is the simple epigram syllogism. So, it provides the reason for the truth of the statement. Used because to show relationship between premise and the conclusion. So, for instance, men are rational because they are all capable of thinking. But John Angelo is a man. Therefore, John Angelo is a rational. So the major premise here is the men are rational because they are all capable of thinking. And the minor premise is the John Angelo is a man, and the conclusion is therefore John Angelo is a rational. So in a minor premise, we see the word because para mas maintindihan lalo kung ano talaga yung men. Men is a rational because they are all capable of thinking. So maintindihan natin na si John Angelo is a man because he has a capable of thinking. And the next part of the epigram syllogism is the compound epigram syllogism. So, the premise are supported by multiple explanation or reason that strengthen in our argument. It used because and for used to show the relationship between premise and the conclusion. So, in compound epigram, so sa simple epigram syllogism is just one word ang idadagdag sa statement para mas lalong maintindihan yung pinapahiwatig ng statement, while the compound epigram is marami, two or more clauses para makita yung relationship ng premise and the conclusion. So for instance, men are rational because they are capable of thinking, but John Angelo is a man. But John Angelo is a man, for he has a human nature. So therefore, John Angelo is a rational. So as you can see in this example, the minor premise is nadagdagan yung information niya ng he has a human nature. So you have to put an extra or an other term so you have to add an information about a man. So ang dinagdag dito sa minor premise is he has a human nature. So parang mas lalo nating maintindihan na lumawak yung information about men. So therefore, men are rational because they are capable of thinking, but John Angelo is a man. So, he has a human nature. Therefore, John Angelo is a rational. So, it's understandable naman na sa simple epigram syllogism is one clauses lamang ang ginamit to add an information into a statement, while sa compound epigram is two clauses ang inad natin sa major and sa premise para mas lalong lumawak yung information about sa example na men. So that is epigram syllogism. So it is used on clauses like since, for, because, or etc. para mas lalong lumawak yung information or para mas lalong madagdagan yung statement.
So I will give you another example in epigram, and it will be, it's raining, so I shall bring an umbrella. So this part of epigram is a simple epigram because there is one reason supporting the conclusion. It is raining, so I shall bring an umbrella. There are one reason to support the conclusion, and the compound epigram is it is raining. The forecast predicts more rain, and I see dark clouds, so I shall bring an umbrella. So there are multiple reasons to supporting conclusion. Because epigram is the speaker present statement, support it with a reason, and then provide a conclusion based on that reason.
Okay, so the third special variation of syllogism is the sorites. So, sorites is also one of the special variation of syllogism wherein the conclusion is between connected of the syllogism. So, there are two types of sorites, the Aristotelian and the Gosselinian. So first is the Aristotelian sorites. So it is one of the type of sorites wherein the predicate of the first proposition becomes the subject of the second proposition, and the predicate of the second proposition becomes the subject of the next in order that the main conclusion is formed. So, for instance, all philosophers are thinker, but all thinker are lovers of wisdom. But all lovers of wisdom are intelligent person. But all intelligent person are responsible individuals. So therefore, all philosophers are responsible individuals. So in this example, we use the pattern of Aristotelian sorites, wherein the subject of the first proposition becomes the predicate of the second proposition hanggang sa matumpak na yung main conclusion ng isang statement. So, in this Aristotelian sorites, the main point here is hanggang sa makuha yung main conclusion is the subject of this first proposition becomes the predicate of the predicate of the first proposition become the subject of the second proposition in order for us to form the main conclusion of the statement. So the next part of the sorites, as the second part of the types of sorites, is the Gaussian. So Gaussian is one of the types of sorites wherein the subject of the first proposition becomes the predicate of the second proposition, and the subject of the second proposition becomes the predicate of the next until a conclusion formed. So therefore, the subject of the last proposition and the predicate is the predicate of the first syllogism. So for you to understand, I will give you an example. So for instance, all philosophers are thinker, but all thinker are lovers of wisdom. But all intelligent person are thinker, but all responsible individual are intelligent person. Therefore, all responsible individual are thinker. So in Gaussian types of sorites is until hindi mo makuha yung gustong ipahiwatig o yung main conclusion ng isang statement is yung predicate at yung subject ng sa predicate ng first proposition is magiging subject ng second preposition, and ang predicate naman ng at ang subject naman ng second preposition is magiging predicate ng third preposition, and then ang subject naman ng third preposition is magiging predicate ng fourth preposition hanggang sa makuha na yung conclusion ng isang statement. So unlike sa Aristotelian sorites is the predicate of the first proposition becomes the subject of the second preposition, and then the predicate of the second preposition becomes the subject of the next in order to form the main conclusion of this statement. While sa Gaussian is the subject of the proposition becomes the predicate of the second proposition, and the subject of second proposition becomes the predicate of the next until a conclusion becomes the predicate. So sa Aristotelian is yung predicate yung magiging subject sa second preposition, while sa Gaussian naman is magiging predicate yung sa subject ng first proposition. So another example in Aristotelian sorites. So all dogs are mammals. All mammals are vertebrates. All vertebrates are animal. Therefore, all dogs are animals. So the predicate of the first proposition becomes the subject of the second proposition, and then the predicate of the second proposition becomes the subject of the third proposition, and the conclusion is the subject of the first proposition, and then the predicate of the conclusion is the predicate of the third proposition. So each premise builds upon the previous one, leading to the final conclusion. So hope you understand. Another example in Goclenian Sorites. So, all Greeks are human. All humans are mortal. All mortals are subject to death. Therefore, all Greeks are subject to death. So, here, the predicate the human in the first premise become the subject in the second premise and so on. So, until the conclusion forms. So, Goclenian sorites is similar to the Aristotelian sorites, but it's a bit more complex. It involves a series of a premise where the predicate of one premise become the subject of the next premise. So, the last special variation of the syllogism is the dilemma. So, dilemma is last special variation of syllogism which come from the Greek word dis, which means twice, and lemma, which means premise. Etymologically speaking, it means twice premise. Dilemma can be either be simple or complex form. So, dilemma is ito yung may dalawa kang choices. Pero, there are one consequences. So, we have two types of dilemma which is the simple and complex. So, first is the simple. Simple is may choices ka na dalawa and kahit anong piliin mo dun sa choices na yon is same sila ng outcomes or consequences. For instance, the AFP must either attack or not the Abu Sayyaf trough. If the Abu Sayyaf trough will be attacked by the AFP, then the lives of the hostage be in danger. If the AFP will not attack the Abu Sayyaf trough, then they will continue to hold the hostage and endanger their lives. Therefore, both cases, the lives of the hostage will be in danger. The armed forces of the Philippines will attack or not the Abu Sayyaf. So, yung choices is mamimili ka kung a-attack ka ba or hindi. Ipipiliin mo kung a-atake ka ba sa Abu Sayyaf, is still ang outcomes is nasa panganib pa din yung hostage. Kahit magkaroon ng war, if piliin mo naman ang hindi, still ganun pa din yung outcomes. Nasa panganib pa din yung hostage. Kasi of course, patuloy na mag-hostage yung mga Abu Sayyaf. While sa complex naman is ito yung you don't know the possible outcomes but susugal ka. Kumbaga sa argument, it's either manalo o matalo ka pero makikipag-argue ka. For instance, in gambling, either I will win or not. If I gamble and win, I will gain money. If I gamble and will not win, I will not gain any money at all. Therefore, either I will win or not, I have to gamble. If magsusugal ako, either manalo ako or hindi. If manalo ako, makakakuha ako ng pera. If hindi, ako manalo, wala akong makukuhang pera. Pero susugal ako even though hindi ko alam yung possible outcomes kung mananalo ako or hindi. In short, the simple is the straightforward. Alam mo yung outcomes, while the complex is hindi mo alam ang mangyayari or yung outcomes. Just like example na mananalo ka or matatalo ka. So that's all.